Hi, it's Dr. Rowe here. I am on a site with Colin Harperpenman, who I'm going to introduce in just a moment, and to let you know that what we're going to do is we're going to do a series of short videos on renovations. So many people asking, how does a renovation work? What are the key stages to it? I'm here with Colin, who's done many renovations, and I've been working with him now for several years. Colin, before we get going, just tell us a little bit about yourself so they understand the context of this and why I'm asking you to talk about this with me.
Sure, thank you very much. My name's Colin and I'm a Part 2 architect. Throughout my career I've worked on lots of projects, including starting from planning permission, gaining building control approval, and then managing refurbishments from start to finish. And then 5 years ago I went into property investment and kind of brought them skills into the arena of what I was then moving into in property investments. And
the scale of projects you've done range from sort of small to big. What sort of value of project?
Yeah, my initial projects were all very small scale, internal refurbishments. Then we moved up onto extensions and larger scale conversions, and I've completed house conversions up to £1.2 million. So yeah, it's a varied amount of work, and everything entails something different.
And if you add that to me being in civil engineering since I was in my early 20s, which is like 30 years ago, between the two of us combined on sites, we've been across millions of pounds worth of projects, which is great. So what we're trying to do here is give you a simplified picture of what it is when you're going into a renovation. So you're not going in with your eyes green, and being aware of when you need to bring certain people in the process. So what we thought we'd do is, whilst we're on one of the projects, we would film, ask questions, and then Colin's going to walk us around and point to certain things to make you aware of what to look for possibly when you're on site. So let's start with one of the first elements when it comes to doing a renovation. What's one of those first stages that we need to consider?
So a project like of this scale,
yeah,
we are having extensions to the property at the rear of the property and then to the front. So we need to apply for planning permission. So we need to make sure we get all the approvals in place from the council.
Okay, so somebody doing a basic renovation, yeah, but I'm watching this, I just want to renovate a house that I've seen to do as a buy-to-let property. Do they need planning permission?
Not for a basic cosmetic refurbishment. You won't need planning permission for that.
Okay. What is it that defines planning versus non-planning? Who says that should be planning and that should be?
Okay, so we have certain rules we have to abide by, especially in planning permission. And the planning from every council will have a requirement that you need approval for if you're doing certain works. So a basic refurbishment, if it's internal, you won't need planning permission. However, if you do a conversion of that property into something like a HMO of 5 people or more, and in some boroughs that's less, you would need planning permission.
So if somebody's thinking, right, I'm going to turn this into 6, 7, 8 bedroom HMO, I'll just go ahead and just strip it out, chop up the rooms and do that, they will have their hands slapped.
Absolutely.
And probably a neighbour will report them as well. Actually, that does happen.
You can be prosecuted. If you don't get the right permissions in place and you run a property that doesn't have planning approval, which it does need approval at the time, you can be prosecuted, and the council will make you turn it back to what it was.
So that conversation about, I'm about to renovate this house, do I or don't I need a planning officer and planning process, who should they be starting that conversation with? Because we're right at the start of this renovation process.
You need a planning professional that's local to where your project is. So essentially, if somebody's local that can help you and give you some guidance, a general phone call to a local architect will be able to pretty much tell you whether you do or you don't need planning, normally without acquiring any fees. A general conversation to describe what you're planning on doing with the property and then how it's going to be at the end, they'll be able to determine whether you need planning permission.
And some planning departments have a ticket day where you can go and take a ticket and see a planning officer on an afternoon.
Some do, some don't. All the boroughs are changing now. The demand for planning permission, if you go to any council, they're so busy. It's getting a duty planner where you can go and meet them and just sit with them. Them days are disappearing fast.
Right,
absolutely. Okay. So normally, if it's a contentious issue where you're not sure, sometimes you would carry out a pre-application. That will give guidance from the council as to whether you need planning permission on.
I mean, look, you can talk to your builder, the person that you're looking to engage, but they may not have enough experience to confirm whether you will or won't need planning. Certainly with a basic renovation, that is not necessary. If you're stripping out bathrooms, taking down, stripping off wallpaper, possibly removing certain parts of plaster and all that sort of stuff and redoing that, you don't really need that. No. Kitchens, bathrooms, that type of thing. But any reconfiguration externally or even going up, for example, dormers and things like that?
Absolutely. Anything external that affects the building externally, you will need planning permission. So whether that's windows, new windows, or a dormer to the loft conversion or ground floor extension, you're going to need some kind of permission.
Right.
This is where it gets into a bit more detail because on some properties you only need permitted development because you have permitted development rights. So this is the next stage.
Just explain permitted development for the people that are brand new to this.
Okay, so if you have a property and it's your house, permitted development allows you to do a certain amount of extensions on the ground floor and to the roof without full planning permission required. What you need to do is apply for permitted development. That would give you the initial approval without full planning.
Okay, so first stage really is getting... Now, okay, let's stay on the theme of planning, because there's planning as in official formal planning, and then there's just the planning of the project, isn't there?
That's right.
So can we include that in this element before we go to the next one?
You always want to engage your builder early on. Getting planning permission is the key. Once you've got your drawings and your proposed scheme set out, that's when you can start planning your project.
Right.
Because you're going to need to move on to a couple of stages, not only including your builder in your conversations at the beginning, but also building control to make sure that you get everything signed off as approved by regulations.
Okay, we'll come back to things like building control and that in a moment. So the planning process, as in not the planning department, but the planning process, that really is all part of this first element, isn't it? In other words, I'm going in the house, I'm going around with my builder. What do you want to do with this? I want to do this as a buy-to-let property. Right, well, it's pretty wrecked. You know, the people that have lived here before, there's damp, there's all those sorts of problems.
That's right.
That is planning the actual project, isn't it?
And you do that with your contractor.
Right, okay.
Yeah,
So,
and then you can work out a schedule of works with a pricing, and you kind of know where you're moving on from there, and then you can move forward to plan the project. And then
okay, I think let's come back at that into the next process. So I'm going to sign out now with Colin, but keep watching the next step, because we don't want to do this in a very specific numbered process, because you're going to see several elements to this, but we will keep the sequence going. So you kind of need to follow us all the way through the journey. So you ready for the next one?
Absolutely.
Good.
Thank you.